With Valentine's Day happening this weekend, it may feel like love is in the air. Or if you're like many of us, it can feel more like a singles slump. So get this, last year at this time, I decided to do something about it and tried out a professional matchmaking service. Really. So I sat down with a pro matchmaker who learned all about me and what I was looking for in a guy, and then they did all the work to not only find me guys to date, but also schedule the whole thing, even down to the reservations. All I had to do was show up, and I actually had a ton of fun. The service is called It's Just Lunch, and there's one that's located right here in D.C. So I asked Kim Rosenberg of It's Just Lunch, Washington, professional matchmakers, to tell us all about this service and more. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you for having me.
So give us a little bit more of a background on this service, It's Just Lunch, and why it sets it apart from online dating.
Well, it's completely offline. So you're exactly right. We meet with all of our potential clients, and we really try to get to know them, what they're looking for, what's worked for them in the past, what hasn't worked for them. Of course, we want to focus on moving forward.
And of course, I mentioned, well, it wasn't me. It's all them. You've got to take responsibility,
it's never you, right? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. But we really want to get to know our clients, and they come to us for many different reasons. It's Just Lunch is discreet, confidential. We don't use any online profiles. We meet with everybody face to face. Our clients love that we're selective for them and that we match everybody by hand.
It truly is like a love doctor that you all are. I believe that. I mean, again, I went through this service. I went on dates with men. I thought that they were great. I learned more about myself. I had fun. And that was the big thing too. I didn't have to plan and keep texting back or calling back or wondering things. It was like, it was all in the hands of somebody else. Is that what the feedback is coming from the folks that do use your service?
Yeah, I mean, the clients that come to us are busy, they don't want to date online, they love the confidentiality of it, and really they can go about their day. You're exactly right. So we do all the work for them. So we schedule the dates, we send them, a confirmation. They show up, they look pretty or handsome.
Yes, of course.
And we want to keep it light and fun. That's the idea of this. So they know a ton about them before going into the date, because we call them and tell them all about them.
Exactly. And the feedback that you give too is awesome. I remember writing down like the fact that somebody said, listen, Megan, you might have not liked this or that, but if it was fun, if you had a good time with them, then there might be some opportunity to grow. And I was like, okay, am I talking to my mom right now or a professional matchmaker? So it was an awesome experience.
Great.
And I was reading a Huffington Post article recently, and the statistics said that 44% of women who are out there dating online are actually single moms. So it seems like there's a big market for that, and you've got some tips for us.
Absolutely. I think
not me, but there are single moms out there who are dating.
There are a lot of single moms out there, and a lot of them come to us, and dads as well. So you just have to keep that in mind, that you're not the only single parent out there. Just because you have 2 kids and you're 39 doesn't mean that you're never going to meet somebody again. You do have to keep things in mind. You have to make sure that you're in the right space. So when you're a single parent, there are things that you have to consider that you wouldn't have to consider if you were just single in general with no kids. And you have to make sure that you're personally ready and you're not going into it for the wrong reasons. So you want to make sure that the timing's right. You're not doing it because you want your kids to have a father or a mother, that they feel that void is there. You want to make sure that you're emotionally ready for it, and make sure you're going into it
and that you are thinking about the kids too. It's all about like when you're supposed to introduce them maybe to your significant other, how you're supposed to do that. So any tips that you can kind of give us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Always be honest, with whether it's with your kids or the person that you're dating. If you meet somebody, you don't want to go into it and say, oh no, I don't have any kids, and then you go on the date and you're like, oh, by the way, I have 2 kids at home. They're 3 and 7. So always be honest and, have that open line of communication with them. And also with your kids. Don't tell your kids that you're going out with one of your girlfriends and you're going to meet a gentleman.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're honest and you're communicating with them so they are ready for it.
And these helpful hints that you're giving me now, is that something that you're giving to your clients? Because I went on a date with somebody who, through the service, who did have 2 children. And right away in that first date, I was seeing photos of his children. And for me, not having any kids, I was like, oh,
might be a little bit too much.
Right?
Exactly. So
maybe he wasn't listening to the advice.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's, you kind of nailed it. You got to realize when that timing is right to introduce your kids to that special someone. You got to limit the number of introductions.
Right.
Kids, especially depending on what age they're at, they really are impressionable.
Of course.
So you don't want to bring somebody in, they could get really attached to you.
And these are great tips, and that and much more. I hope to have you on again another time too, so we can learn all about it. It's just lunch dating. I recommend it. Personally went through it and think it's a really cool thing.
Thank you so much for
thanks
having
for coming
me.
in.